No Adam again.
It's so sad. So
Two shows in a row with no Adam. What are we gonna do?
I know it doesn't feel right, quite frankly, to not have
No.
Adam here. It's very strange for sure.
We miss you, Adam.
That's right. So
Right now he's on a plane headed my way.
wait, why is he coming there?
Summer Nam,
Summer Nan.
hanging out with all the music nerds.
I can dig it. I can dig it. Well, welcome, Eugene. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're excited to jump in and chat with you about Podscribe and just spend some time hanging out with you. I talked to one of the guys, Jacob Lively, over in the enterprise division today. So that was a good conversation. Thank you for connecting us for sure. For sure. So Marcus, do you know who Eugene is? Are you hip to Podscribe?
I have not ever met Eugene before, and I've heard of Podscribe, but I definitely Googled it when I saw that Eugene was going to be joining us tonight. And I've got to say, I think I'm going to sign up here as soon as maybe during the show. Actually.
Ooh, that could be a fun, saucy live element. Be like, ooh, watch Marcus.
That's
fill out a
right.
registration form. Yeah, well, that's exactly why I wanted to have Eugene on the podcast today, because we had a meeting a couple weeks ago and he was telling me about all the features of Podscribe, and it's just really smart. It's really smart technology. So we're stoked that you
Yes.
could be here with us tonight, Eugene. And yeah, man. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, Eugene? What's your story, man?
Well, my story. I'm from Calgary, Alberta. I grew up there, born and raised, and then I moved to Montreal in the middle of the pandemic, because I just graduated university and trying to be the main character in my own life. So I work remotely. You can live wherever you want. Montreal has beautiful buildings, absolutely amazing food, a bigger dating pool, French. It's a great city to live in and work remotely from. So here I am. And now I work at Podscribe. We transcribe podcasts automatically. I get to talk with a whole bunch of really interesting podcasters and see how they have used their transcripts in their businesses. So it's great.
Right on. Look at you, man. I love making the move, widening the dating pool. I heard that struggle, my man. I'm like, I narrowed it. I moved to like the most remote area I could think of.
The narrowest part of the
I
continent,
know,
too.
full of surfers. Surfers. But yeah.
I love Montreal. I've been there a few times on tour back in the day. What's the big club? I don't know if it's still there. There's a big music club downtown there.
It's been things have been shut down for like 2 years here, and
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like we're going to be opening up for a couple of more months. So I don't know, but I'll let you know in a few.
You'll have to look it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there in 1998, so it may not be there anymore.
I was
Marcus.
born in
with the cow.
1998.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
That was with the Cowboy Junkies.
Oh.
Are you familiar with the Cowboy Junkies? No.
It's
Yeah,
not a
little
football
before your
team,
time.
but
So,
it could be.
speaking of Cowboys, Calgary is the home of that big rodeo. What's the name of the big rodeo?
The
thing
Calgary
in
Stampede.
Yes, the Stampede. Big
Greatest
time. Have you
outdoor
heard of
show
that,
in the
Molly?
No, I've never actually been to a rodeo, so
I think I've done, like, they have big concerts and stuff involved, so I think I've been there a couple times for that. But yeah, it's a big deal.
right.
They closed it down for last year for the pandemic, but Alberta, I think, is the first province in Canada to fully open up and get rid of all of their restrictions. So the Calgary Stampede is going strong right
Wow.
now. So if you want to go, you can, for sure.
If you want to go back, I have thought about moving to Canada.
Yeah.
the past, a couple times here in the past couple
Especially
years.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk
No.
about. Let's talk about podcasts.
No. Yeah. So tell us some of the, because, we had a great meeting, a week or two ago, and you were telling me about all of the features of Podscribe. So can you give us like a rundown of basically how Podscribe works?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, Podscribe is an automatic transcription company. Just think of Otter or Descript, but The difference between us and them is you don't need to ever upload any audio files onto Podscribe. What it is we tap straight into your RSS feed. So 10 minutes after you publish an episode on Buzzsprout or whatever your hosting platform may be, we will see that you've published it, we will transcribe it, and then we'll send you an email letting you know that we finished transcribing your podcast. From there, we have two features that are really cool. One is an embeddable transcript player that you can use on your website. So you can take your transcript and put it on your website. And that way the keywords in your transcript will start ranking on Google. So it's like an SEO bump for your website. Super helpful. And it also helps you create content that way too. So that's the embeddable transcript player. And the other thing is our All Search widget. What that allows you to do is to look through all of your past transcripts for every single instance you have mentioned a particular word or phrase. So if I wanted to look back and see for the podcast club how many times Libsyn was mentioned and then play
or mushrooms, yeah.
And then play back the snippet where Libsyn was mentioned, you would find that really easily. And we've had a couple of clients who've used it quite interestingly. One, Heidi Snyderburn, she's a birth doula and she's the host of the Birth Story podcast. What she was doing was writing a book on vaginal births after cesarean sections, VBACs. So to find that content, she would type in VBAC in her All Search widget. Up would pop up every time she used it, and then she would copy and paste the text from her transcripts into a Word document. And so that was the beginnings of a rough draft for her book, and her content was already there. That's one thing you can use it for. Another one, Jackie Bayer, she has a organic gardening podcast and a Facebook group. So to get into the Facebook group, she asks you a couple of questions. One of them is, do you have any issues about gardening or questions about gardening? And someone might ask, how do I get rid of aphids for my tomato plant? So instead of trying to remember what the answer is, she'll just go to her All Search widget, she'll type in aphids, and chances are that one of her guests will have answered that question. So she'll just say, she'll either copy the answer or just direct them to that minute of that episode to answer her question. But the funniest thing that I've heard the All Search widget being used for is to count how many shots you should take. So this one person was sponsored by a mushroom coffee company, and they wanted to know how many times they had said mushrooms. So we transcribed their backlog, and it turned out that they had said it 49 times or something. So if you're looking for a drinking game, you could definitely use your All Search widget for that as well.
That's awesome.
I'm signing up just for that.
Exactly. Just for the drinking opportunities.
Just to make drinking games.
That's amazing. Well, so what I really love about like the first example you gave, and I love that you shouted out those people, you're awesome. And you did a great job talking about vaginal births, which I know is not exactly comfortable. You're like, I'm going to get this exactly right.
No, I was worried that I would say cesarean births after vaginal C-sections. And I've said that before.
That doesn't work. Yeah.
It's the other way around.
Yeah. That matters.
But no, I love this idea of reverse engineering your content. I talk to people all about this all the time. If you want to write a book, start with a podcast, map out the chapters of the book like episodes of a podcast. Be intentional, save yourself some time, interview people or talk about those topics, specifically so that you can transcribe it and copy and paste and have the outline for your book, right? So, I just love technology. I love smart technology and using data. And I think it's really, really cool. I mean, you guys also have an option of being able to upload the file too, right? Like you don't have to wait until it's on the RSS feed.
Absolutely. If you have a podcast that you'd like to get the transcript for before you've published it, you can definitely upload a clip of the audio file itself so that you get it before it's published.
Am I remembering this correctly that you said Rev is the back engine for?
Yes.
Right, which is pretty impressive because Rev ain't cheap, my friend. Not at all. So the fact that you guys are using their engine or whatever, is really impressive because they're really top notch as far as transcriptions go, for sure. So, the reason why I was really excited to have you on here, we talked we talked all kinds of stuff that day, but, I introduced you to the Just Busters group, to Carrie's group. And so Podscribe is like setting up, some great, stuff for everybody in that group. Because what I was really thinking about, and this kind of goes in line with the last episode, Marcus, talking about imposter syndrome and empowering more women or podcast editors in general to make more money. And so this is it, man. Podscribe is it, right? Not only is Eugene awesome and the company is great, but like I really wanted to come on here because I want people to understand this technology will put more money in your pocket. So if you just have a podcast and you want to transcribe it, there are so many SEO benefits to this. Everything that Eugene just mentioned, putting it in as a blog so you get those SEO hits to your website, all of that, right? It's money, being able to search that data, all of that. But if you are a podcast service provider, this is an opportunity for you to make $50 to $100 more per episode without having to hire anyone else. Okay. So in business, you got your cost of goods. It's how much it costs you to buy whatever it is you're selling or create whatever it is you're selling, right? A lot of times as solo entrepreneurs, we forget that human capital is a cost of goods sold. Your time has an expense and value to it. So if you can add a service that doesn't add more time and more things to do to your to-do list and also doesn't require you to hire someone else, this means your cost of goods is super low and your profit margin therefore will be super high. This is a great add-on to your list of services without having to hire somebody. Yes, you will have to go in and double check because ain't no transcription ever been written perfectly. Shit gets a little bananas sometimes, so you're going to have to skim it, but it's not like having to write the whole thing, right? So you could upload your client's file, you could get it transcribed, and you could serve it to your clients. On average, right? I did some stuff with Rev one time, and Rev quoted me like $167 for one podcast. Like, it is not cheap at all. They're like $1 a word, or I don't know what. That's not. That would be insane. It would be
It's $1
like
a minute.
$1 billion.
$1.25 a minute.
$1. See, they went up since I used it. It was $1 a minute when I used it last time.
And then there's more depending on how fast you need it. And then it's, I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying it's not cheap. So with Podscribe, you could get an account. If you have 5 clients, you're absorbing the cost of that subscription monthly over between 5 clients or 3 clients or 20, right? But now you can add this. Hey, by the way, clients, we have a new service, and it's super easy to sell transcriptions because it's great for SEO. It's additional content for them. It's good for the Google machine. Like, if you can't sell the value of a transcription, like, you just need to use Google a little better. Quite frankly, you could probably copy.
Well, can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
Like, especially if I'm a business, which I am, and I'm trying to convince my clients, why do we need to worry about SEO? Like, what will a transcript help me? Why do I need to bother with a transcript on my episode page?
It's something that you can add for very little effort that can give you really big rewards. And there's a lot of upside and little downside to it. So the way that SEO works is if someone is asking a question on Google and they want to get an answer to it, your website will be ranked based on how well you answer that question of theirs. And the more content that you can add to your website, the more keywords you can add to your website, the more that other people link to your website, the higher your website will rank on Google. And so adding your transcripts to your website is one thing that you can do to add keywords to do the work for you. People might be looking for a specific answer to a specific question, which only exists on your podcast, on your episode. And instead of getting the Googler to listen to your entire podcast, what they can do instead is scroll through your transcript and find the answer there. And you might even get a new listener out of that as well. But basically, SEO helps drive traffic to your website. Transcripts help you do better for SEO. And so if you're trying to sell transcripts to your client, then you might consider the uptick in website visits.
For sure.
Well, and some people will say, well, Google's now automatically transcribing podcasts and indexing it. Why would I need to do a transcript? But in my experience, A, that's new Google technology. B, the indexing that Google's engine has been it's been building and building for so long, the algorithms and stuff. You have to give text for that algorithm to grab it, not just the audio, right? Just same thing with images and stuff like that too.
Right. It seems from the last time I looked into Google transcribing podcasts, it wasn't their biggest priority. It seemed like they were kind of slow at it. And if they were to transcribe podcasts, they would probably use it to make money from ads, and they would 100%. Only do it on Google Podcasts. Adding your transcripts to your own website ensures that the traffic that comes from Google goes to your website rather than to Google's website or Google Podcasts. So it depends on who is getting the value from the content of your transcripts. And if you want you to be the one who gets that, then you should add them to your website.
Yes.
Well, and not to mention like the value of having a new, it's like writing a new blog every week. If you do a weekly podcast or even a monthly podcast, if you put a new piece of content on your website every month, that helps keep your website in the rankings. And if that piece of content that you're putting on there is chock full of SEO terms that are relevant to your business, your brand, your mission, your message, whatever, then Google's going to reward you for fresh content. So it's a great way to work smarter and not harder, right? So, if you're going to say all those words out loud on your podcast, you might as well have them written down. Now, you can certainly just put your transcript on the website, right? You can just slap it up there and keep it moving. Also, hold on, before we get too far in advance, ADA compatibility, Mickey Flickies, you got to make sure shit is available for everybody. That's another really great reason to have a transcription on your website, because not everybody can hear things the same way, and so being able to read it is important. Which is why sometimes just putting the straight up transcript can be helpful, because it's like an interview. You remember reading those back in the day, people, where they put the name first, right? It's just like that. So you're making it more ADA compatible, and then if you do have like a great content writer on your team, you can send them that, and then from there, I posted an article one time about like great ways to turn a transcription into like a solid blog post, and like by not just posting the whole thing, but actually picking high level points and, copying, pasting certain parts and crafting a whole, that could be a LinkedIn post. You could get a ton of money. You could create 15 quote graphics off of your transcription for social media. There are so many things that you can do with a transcription, right? So, there's so much value to that. And what it really boils down to is convincing your clients, right, of that value, which shouldn't be hard because it's not pie in the sky. We're talking about Google rankings, right? And if you're a business owner, you should understand the importance of like content and SEO and all that. Even if you don't have to understand SEO, it's like acupuncture and airplanes and computers. You don't need to know how they work. You just need to know that they work, right? So, if you do have a podcast business though, dude, this is money. If Rev is going to charge somebody $167 or whatever it is for a podcast, or $100, whatever, right? That's without anybody looking at it. So you should charge at least $100, right? Your market can't support that. Charge $50 an episode. Charge $150. Only your audience, but it's an add-on, and you can charge way more than what you're going to pay Podscribe every month to do this, and then from there, if you really want to go deeper, you can help them get data is everything. That's why Facebook is always fucking listening to us, because they're getting all of our data so they can run shit. You know what I mean? So the more data,
it's not really free.
Yeah. So the more data you have on your own content, like you want to look at advertisers later, you want to look at sponsors later. Oh, maybe the mushroom tea people. They're like, hey, we heard that girl Molly talks about mushrooms all the time on the podcast club. we should sponsor them. You know what I mean? Like, right? So there's so many benefits to this, but I just really want to dial in on this idea of like, you can add another service, without having to hire somebody else. And the biggest thing I hear from podcast editors is that they're already strapped too thin. They're doing too much work. They're sick of it, right? Well, this is a super easy add-on, and your profit margins will be so high, right, that it'll absorb some of the bullshit and some of the stuff that you're doing, right? And you start getting your customers used to adding more things, doing more things, spending a little bit more money. You ease them on down that road. But this is such a great opportunity. And especially when you got people at Podscribe who are like real people who will get on the phone with you and help you out and talk to you and like try to help you as much as possible. I feel like in 2021, that is super valuable because Apple ain't gonna do that shit for you. They'll be like, "What? I'm not
Nope.
home." Click. You know what I mean? They don't even have a phone.
Apple doesn't care about your podcast.
They don't even have a phone number. I don't think. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna get
No,
a Eugene at Apple who's gonna care about your content. So, I was just excited to have you on here because I want to drive this home. Like, you can make more money. Even Marcus, you should hit up all. I mean, if you're not already doing transcriptions, why not add it on?
So let's talk about the money factor. So I have one client that I do transcriptions for, and all I do is basically just get reimbursed. And I used rev.com for a while, and the dollar per minute, their episode's around 35 minutes. So I pay $35 and then I bill it back to them. Now I'm using gotranscript.com because I've had better luck with them. I had for a while the human transcribers on Rev. There was some, like, they would switch up who was who and that sort of thing. And I'd have to go back and I want to pay somebody to do it so I don't have to spend a second, double checking and I tried just out of curiosity to transcribe something myself, one of their episodes. It took me 3 hours.
No fun.
I charge between $150 and $200 an hour. I will gladly pay or ask my client to pay $30 to $50, So switching, I was looking at this. I'm paying basically my clients are paying $60 a month for me to have Go Transcribe or GoTranscript.com.
Don't keep saying their name. We don't want to give them business. I'm just kidding.
Well, here's the thing. We're paying them $60 to $70 a month to transcribe 2 episodes. What does it cost? Yeah. So what does it cost for a Podscribe to do the same thing for me?
I'm glad you brought it up. I'll have to clarify something. We have the basic tier that everyone gets on when they subscribe for an account, and that's $191.90 for a year of transcripts.
Whole year.
And so that works out to $15.99 a month. However, that is just AI that is transcribing your podcast. I think that it does a pretty good job. The better your microphone quality, the less crosstalk there is, the better the AI will be at recognizing both speakers as well as the words that you're using. But we also have an add-on service that we have a human team that can go through your transcript and edit it to perfection and label speakers and all of that. And that costs $1 per minute. So Rev is $1.25. We're 25 cents cheaper than them. But other than that, so it comes up to $191.90 for a year of transcripts, and that gives you 5 hours of space per month. If you go over here and there, that's completely fine with us. And if you have multiple podcasts, because many podcasts are just 1 hour a month or 2 hours a month, we can bundle them into 1 5-hour a month plans that you're not wasting all of that time. So yeah.
That was my next question is if I had multiple podcasts as a producer, can I, because I want to use it for my wife's podcast. I want to use it for, one of my other clients' podcasts. So, and because each of those, like my wife's podcast is 15-minute episodes.
Right.
And then, so that 5 hours is going to be plenty for me. And my plan is I'm going to sign up for it right now because I want to try the AI. I haven't tried the AI in a while.
It's probably
and I want
better.
to see because I'm sure it is because it gets better and better as you go. And I used to use Descript to do my wife's podcast, but that I was having to spend, time because anyway, yeah. So I'm going to give it a shot. And Descript is pretty expensive too. Like you have to pay for a membership for them too. So I'm going to give Podscribe a shot.
Well, and so
happy to have you.
And
yeah,
so like even if you do this like breakdown, right? Like even if you're paying like $200 for the year and then $1 a minute. So like even if you're a solo editor and you do not have you do the AI and it's not quite cutting it, right? Then spend $1 a minute. It's still on a 30-minute episode, at $16 for the month. You got a couple clients if you can get them all in there. I mean, we're talking about $1.04 a minute or something is the adjusted price. I don't know. That's still worth it because you could still charge your client like $50 to $75 for that transcript. Like I charge per episode. I don't charge per minute, right? My clients are paying per episode. I don't do 30-minute episodes because ain't nobody getting their shit done in 30 minutes. I'm not falling for that anymore, people. You hear me? And And so, so it's still worth it because you can charge double. Basically what I'm saying is whatever it costs you with Podscribe to do it, you double that, and that's what you charge your clients. Now you have a 50% profit margin on a product that you don't have to do anything for other than upload the file to Podscribe in advance if you want to deliver it to your client at the same time as the rest of the assets. And if not, you don't even have to upload that thing. The RSS feed will get it done and you can send it to the client a couple days later, right? So
that's what I want to try. And you can also embed, you have an embed code thing, right? So I just put that embed code. 'Cause that's the other part of my job is now I have to download the Word document. I have to make sure it's formatted properly. I have to copy the text, paste it into my CMS on the website. So I have to do that for every episode for my clients. With this, I can copy and paste a code, right? A code snippet, and it'll just show up as soon as it's ready. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to try.
So the way it works is every time we email you your transcript after we have finished transcribing it, is in that email itself, we give you the embed code. So you just go to your email inbox, you copy that code, you go onto WordPress or Pod Page, and then you paste that there. And then instead of having 4 to 5 pages of text that you have to scroll through to get to the bottom of your page, you can just skip that, because the way that the embed works is it presents your transcript as a little box. So It looks really great. And you can see that if you go to our homepage or our landing page, podscribe.ai, we have it embedded on our page. So it makes a big difference. Could I also address the accuracy thing you brought up, Molly?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So accuracy is probably the biggest objection when people are considering transcripts. If we send over a sample transcript, then they might say it's not 100% accurate. But we have found that you don't need to have 100% accuracy. It completely depends on what you want to use your transcripts for. If you are using your transcripts for SEO purposes, then the keywords will still be transcribed, even if we don't get every single word accurate 100%. And so that's what matters. If you are using your transcripts to scroll through and to figure out where someone has spoken about a certain topic or what the product was that was being advertised on your podcast, you don't need to have 100% accuracy. You just need to have a good enough sense of you just need to have a good enough AI that will allow you to figure that out. And I think that most AI transcription services have that right now. It's not bad. It's pretty good. So if those are your reasons for getting transcripts, then AI transcripts that are 90 to 95% accurate do the job more than well enough. If you are wanting to turn it into a book, or even if you want to turn it into a book, 90 to 95% is accurate, is good enough. If you want to send it to someone else and you want it to be absolutely perfect, then and only then should you consider maybe you should get a human to help go through it and edit. So you've just got to know what you want to use your transcript for.
Right. Or if you think like a prosecuting attorney is going to be reading it out loud one day in court about you might want to check for accuracy. But no, those
right.
Well, I had a medical malpractice insurance company that was one of my clients that I got rid of a little while ago, and they were sticklers about that. Like you had to say the words right. You had to, and so that I wasn't doing their transcripts. They had another person doing it.
And that's a great point, Eugene, right? For a client like that, just pay the $1 a minute to get a human to look over it, or do it yourself.
Yeah, and they pay for
right?
it.
You know what I mean? And and then because your profit margin is still bananas, right? If you have 3 clients that are easy and one that's a stickler, well, if you pay the $1 a minute for 3 and you'd use the $15 a month for the other one, your profit margins are still freaking bananas, man. You're still making $60 on every, you know what I mean? Charge an extra $50. You're still going to make at least 30 per episode. You know what I mean? Minimum, extra, more,
One of our clients, his name is Michael Garfield. He's the host of the Complexity podcast from the Santa Fe Institute. One thing that he does is he actually outsources the editing of his transcript. He gets volunteers from his listener base to go through it and help edit. And he suggested on our podcast, Podscribers, that you break it up into 10-minute chunks. And then after someone has finished editing the transcript, he puts their name at the top of the page to bathe them in honor and glory. And so that's one great way to create community, is to add that to the top of the page. And if you are worried about, your transcript ending up in court or something like that, you can always put a disclaimer at the top of the page saying that the final record is that which is on the audio. This is a machine-generated podcast transcript.
Boom. I don't think anybody's actually... Well, actually, some of these true crime people might want to cover their asses because they all keep ending up in court. I was just kidding. But, you know...
Yeah. I mean, but the community thing is a great point because a lot of podcasts have very avid followers and fans. And so they're excited to be involved and mentioned at all, especially if you mention them on the podcast. Hey, thanks to so-and-so for transcribing last week's episode. You know, that's pretty cool. That's a great idea.
And you're super right too. Like accurate, you know, we do stuff for law firms and like that's a struggle because, you know, that definitely has to be super accurate. And we're like, what case? You know, like,
right.
What? They're like, what do you mean you don't know that Latin word? I'm like, my bad. So that's a little different, but yeah, it doesn't need to be accurate because the keywords are going to get pinged by the crawler and you're going to get all the benefits of it. And I mean, not that we shouldn't strive for accuracy, especially with ADA compatible, right? But like, even like anytime you're looking at, you know, they're actually not called closed captions. They're actually called open captions. I don't know who screwed that up. A little fun fact.
Interesting.
But they're never right. Have you ever watched anything in your life when the captions
when
were
the TV's
right?
like on in a restaurant or something? It's terrible.
You're like,
it's
what?
And it's like lagging behind. And
So like if you're even marginally better than that, you're like beating the American Education Board or something. I don't even know. Like it's pretty bad. Like all the Trump speeches, like anytime they were like it was like whoever was doing it was like wasted behind a curtain someplace because it was like the most inaccurate thing. It was like, are they talking? Is this the right show? You know what I mean? Like I've never seen anything more incorrect, but I mean, that's a really valid point, right? Like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. That's one of my favorite quotes because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're like, no, I'm just going to finish the website. No, I'm just going to do this. Yeah. I'm just going to do that.
I get stuck.
And then I'm just going to make this. Let's just do that shit. You know what I mean? Like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, right? Like, nothing in life is perfect, you know, except for chocolate. But other than that, nothing in life is perfect. And so it can't be perfect, right? But at the end of the day, you're adding value for your clients. You're putting more money in your pocket. And you just got to get into this idea of like this business model of what is your cost of goods, you know? And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know money. I don't know accounting. Well, you got to get over that shit and you got to figure it out. You can't calculate a profit and loss if you don't know what it costs you. Do you know how many businesses out there don't know how much it costs to make the muffins that they make? They don't know what are you paying per gram? What is your flour cost? How much sugar is in that? Like, what are your costs? That's like the number one problems in like 90% of businesses, especially restaurants. They don't know what their products are actually costing them and they're pricing things incorrectly. This is a great way to buffer some of the things that you've priced incorrectly because you were devaluing yourself because some asshole coach told you to charge less for your first client. Well, this is a great way to recoup that. And again, just get your clients in this idea of like, yeah, you're investing in this content. You can invest more. So now you can do editing and transcription. Well, maybe now you know, another program will pop up that'll automate something else and you can add that to your list of services. And now instead of making $50 a podcast, you're making $150 a podcast, which is still way too low. Don't charge that much. But like, you know, for the people out there that are like doing so much work and not charging enough, like this is such an easy way to like crush that, you know? You could also add, hey, we'll also send you 3 quote graphics for the episode. Bing, bang, boom. You pull them right from the transcript. You charge them an extra $50 for that too. Man, when you start telling people, we can do that for you too. We can do that. It'll just show up. You don't have to lift a finger. That's what everyone wants right now, you know?
Transcripts are kind of like a car or a phone where you don't feel the need for them when you don't have them, but once you get them, you see a use for them everywhere. You mentioned quotes. One of our clients, Zach, he's the host of the Auxoro podcast. He uses his transcripts to write show notes, and they are the best show notes I've ever read in my entire life. You read through the show notes and you have an idea of what's being said, what value the podcast has for you, and whether you want to listen to it. If you are coming back and you want to re-listen to that episode, you know exactly where they spoke about I don't know, cold pillows or something like that. So it's
love a cold
it's really
pillow.
great for creating.
I do.
It's great for finding when you spoke about a certain topic. It's great for writing show notes, and it's great for referencing as well. Instead of trying to re-listen to the episode to find when you said something, you can just go straight to the transcript and pull out the quote that you were looking for, or point out where someone said something over email instead of, I don't know, attaching an MP3 file.
Right.
So once you have transcripts, you'll notice that they'll start to work in, and you'll use them all the time, and it'll make life so much easier for you in ways that you never expected before.
Boom.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back to something you said before too. That's probably one of the biggest factors besides having the right keywords on your website. Well, first of all, I've talked about this before, and it's, you know, one of the many bees that I have in my bonnet. But how podcasters, a new episode comes out and they go on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, whatever, and they share a link, and it's a link to Spotify or Apple. Bad. You know, don't do that. You're missing out on the SEO, because SEO, a big part of SEO is the traffic to your website. It's how many times people visit those keywords on your
website,
site,
yeah.
and that's what gets you up on the rank. So if you don't have any reason for people to go to your website, they're not going to go to your website. But first of all, you should have a website. If you have a podcast, you need a website. So, and all I do is, like, I'll do Squarespace or WordPress or whatever, and do a blog feed and embed my little player from whatever my host service is, and then have the show notes with the links talked about and the transcript. And so if you have just the transcript, even without taking time to do the show notes, which I do, all of my shows have show notes. You talk about it in the episode. I have, you know, if you want to learn more about this thing that I just talked about, the link's in the show notes. If you want to see the transcript, the link's in the show notes. It's at myurl.com. And so then you get more and more traffic. That is what actually gets you showing up on Google. It's not just the keywords, it's the traffic. And so this is like the easiest, the first step way for you to get people a reason to go to your website and get that traffic for SEO.
Boom. We do not work for Podscribe, by the way. I'm just really excited about it.
Yet.
Not yet, anyway. It's my low-key plan. I'm going to quit Hardcast and work for Podscribe. But I'm just kidding, Matt. Matt's like, what? Well, you know, this is awesome. I've been excited about this interview for a couple weeks now, just because I really hope that, you know, our audio editor listeners, you know, or anybody with a podcast, I hope you've already subscribed. I hope when you're going to email me an hour and be like, Molly, we got 1 million new sign. I'm just kidding. We have 17 listeners. Molly, we got 17 new listeners. 17 new subscriptions. But, you know, hopefully you'll see like a little bump, because I hope people just understand, like, this is money, right? And instead of looking at it as, you know, another thing to do, right? Don't look at it that way. Look at it as an opportunity to make money, right? You got to have like loss leaders, right? You know, some things in your arsenal, your service, you know, your suite of services are going to make you more money than others. You need one that's got a stupid high profit margin in it to absorb all the other stuff. So when you have to edit something a third time, you're not losing money, right? Because every time you touch the file, you lose money. Every time you have to ask your client to pay the invoice, you're losing money. Every time you have to duplicate an effort in your podcast editing process, you lose money. Period, right? So this is a great way for you to add this bump into your bottom line, bring some more revenue in. So inevitably, when that client asks you to edit something, even though they promised you they'd send all their edits in, and you got to go in and re-upload and edit and re-render and re-upload, you've absorbed some of that cost because you have a product that gives you a bigger profit margin than someplace else. So you know, not only, you know, all the benefits of Podscribe, but like from a business perspective, this is such an opportunity for so many people. So I just really hope that, you know, if you're a solo podcaster, get you some Podscribe. If you're a podcast editor, get Podscribe. I mean, I really, you know,
I just signed up.
Nice. Boom. There, we got at least one. I'm in there.
Got one.
I'd ask for a referral link, but I'm not sure it'd be worth it. But, But and then hopefully maybe we'll have Jacob on at some point, because they're doing some pretty cool stuff on the enterprise side too, Marcus, with advertising and data. Because they've been transcribing.
Does Brian Barletta know about
no,
this?
but maybe we should have him on. That would be cool. We could just let them nerd speak it out and
That's
sit there
right.
confused in the background, like, I don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, I think this is super cool. So I'm excited to see, where this industry is going, what's happening with it, and how products, smartly designed products are going to change the industry, and not just how it works, but the people really pushing the machine forward. Because every podcast you've listened to that's worth a goddamn, right, was edited by somebody, unless you're listening to it on Anchor, and sorry about your luck, but because you can do it right from your phone. But there's somebody behind that. Somebody, if there's music, if there, there's somebody behind there doing that. There's a machine there, and everybody's talking about all the money that's in podcasting, the $2 billion. Meanwhile, there's all these people working for peanuts, right? So this is a great way to start to level that distribution of wealth a little bit in this podcast frontier, because there is money out there to be made. And this is a great opportunity for freelance podcast editors to make some more money, right? Isn't that the goal?
Absolutely. That's right.
I mean, not every day, all day, but if you own a business, the goal should be to make more money. What I mean?
Definitely. I'm also thinking too about this whole issue that everybody's up in arms about, with how Apple has, we've talked about it already, how they screwed things up and all this stuff, and how it's affecting. Yeah. And it fits in with what I was getting at earlier about you have to have a website for your show. And so many people, when they think podcasts, they just think about like the Apple app or the Spotify app or whatever. And there's everybody's talking about discoverability problems. Like Adam has said, I wish there was one place I could go and just look at all my podcasts. And most people think about the apps. Well, there is a report, and I'll try to find the link so we can put it in the show notes, from Edison Research. That every year they do a report on how people find out about podcasts. Guess what? The top thing is, it is not Apple or Spotify.
Word of mouth.
It is Google. Well, word of mouth is one. I think that's one of. Well, I think it is. I think word of mouth actually is the top thing, and then the second or third, I think that maybe the second is Google. Is Google search.
Because Google runs the world. Everything that's why they're getting sued right now.
If you don't have a website for your podcast, the only way Google has to find your show is either in the Google Podcasts feed, which is going to be super limited. In the Apple podcast URL, which is going to, then Apple gets your SEO, not. So you got to have a home base for your entity or whatever, if your show itself is the business, then obviously you got to have it. But for most of my clients, the show is just part of their marketing machine. Right. And for Molly, a lot of your clients too. So it has to live on their websites it's more reason to get people to go to their website so that gets SEO, so their business gets SEO, not just the podcast. Right. So anyway, all that to say, this whole thing of people being up in arms about the app ecosystem and how discoverability is a problem, it's not. You just have to use social media and Google just like everything else. It doesn't matter if you're a blog, if you have a book, if you have a movie, whatever it is. The machine is you promote it on social media and send people to your website. That's right. That's how you get discoverability. And the transcript is a huge part of that. It's at the core of the SEO because the keywords and giving people a reason to go to your website. So if you're not doing this, you can't hang out. You're missing out.
We don't like you.
That's right. I'm just writing you off right now. If you're not going to use,
you're dead to me.
Could I add a couple of things?
Of course.
Yes, please. Of course.
One, we have an affiliate program, so you should check that out. Mark, because I'm sorry that you didn't click on Molly's affiliate link before signing up, but that's okay.
Well, I haven't heard back yet, so maybe I'll sign up again.
Life is all about missed opportunities.
Sure.
I clicked the free trial thing at the top.
Oh,
so,
got you. So that just means
Yeah.
I'll have an email from you in my inbox in a
Okay.
couple of minutes.
Nice.
But if you click on Molly's link, then I'm sure you'll then get the thing before
Okay,
before
I'll make
putting
sure
in
and
your
do
credit
that.
card stuff.
So that's why I haven't got an email back yet. Is because you're
'Cause
busy
you're
right
busy.
now talking to us.
Right.
That's
Sorry.
customer service,
Yes.
people. Look at that. That's Eugene is like hand selecting. He's like, "You're cool. You're cool."
Sorry, I can't talk right now. I'm on a podcast.
Right. And I also work 24/7, so immediate responses.
That's
to,
right.
No, Monday to Friday kind of thing. But the affiliate program, you get 14% from every referral that clicks your link
Wow.
and then goes on to purchase. The second thing is we would like to offer a discount to Podcast Club listeners. If you
Yay.
sign up and you mention the Podcast Club in the little message box at the bottom of our landing page, which is podscribe.ai, we will transcribe your entire backlog from the past 365 days for free. So that'll let you
What?
use your All Search widget.
What?
It'll give you a shit ton of content. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
You know, you can curse. It's my podcast, Eugene. We've already.
We do all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Okay, a shit ton of content, and it'll be great. So we'll do that for you. Just type in the Podcast Club in the message part. And the last thing I wanted to say is, even if you don't end up using Podscribe, if you're still thinking of getting transcripts, or if you already have transcripts and you want to know about all of the different ways there are to use those transcripts, please check out our podcast. It's called Podscribers, and I have interviewed a whole bunch of our clients. They have done amazing things with their transcripts and their podcasts. And if you're looking for inspiration and ideas, definitely check out the podcasts. And the transcripts are, of course, available on our website too.
That's amazing.
Why wouldn't they be?
Right? Dude,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Dude, all your
Yeah.
podcast
Oh, thank you.
backlog,
That's awesome.
transcribe, like that's super valuable, man. That's awesome.
I'm definitely doing that
That is, we should, yeah.
right now.
Well, actually, Marcus, you didn't type it in.
I
so
need to wait.
I
Yeah.
don't know if we can give you that deal.
Sorry about your luck, Chuck.
Oh,
I'm just joking.
man.
I'm just joking.
That is amazing. That is awesome. Well, I'm going to put the
Thank you.
affiliate link in our show description because you never know. And I will definitely
Right.
continue to toot the Podscribe horn because you guys are awesome.
Doot, doot.
And I'm proud of Eugene for moving to a new place in the middle of the pandemic and living your best life and being you said the main actor in your own story.
The main character.
The main
Yeah.
character.
The
Oh
main
yeah, the main actor.
character.
That would be weird. That's awesome. That's amazing. Like I'm playing someone else.
Yeah, if you don't write your own story, then you're probably a minor character in someone else's, and maybe you don't like the part you've been given. So better write your own
Boom.
story.
Damn, son. I definitely can't say anything
And then get it
smarter
transcribed.
than that. Yeah.
With Podscribe.
That is amazing. Well, right on. Well, thank you, Eugene, for coming on. And, sorry we had to push last week, but I'm really glad that you came on. And I'm excited to share this podcast with the world. It'll come out, a week from today. It'll come out next Monday. So I'll ping you when the episode is ready. But this was really valuable. This is really great. Hopefully, our listeners, all 7 of them found it to be helpful. And
I thought it was 17.
it's okay. Well, I don't know.
It decreased by 10.
Yeah, sometimes
hour.
by the minute the numbers are literally going down. But no, I think actually our numbers are starting to pick up a little bit. Actually, the imposter syndrome isn't real was our #1 episode so far.
Nice.
Yes,
As it
highest
should be.
downloads so far. So yeah, we did a whole episode like 2 weeks ago about why imposter syndrome isn't real, and I just like went off the rails a little bit.
She went
I listened
off.
to that
It was
one.
awesome.
Just
Yes.
charge doubly,
Nice.
nonstop.
Yeah.
Just charge double, whatever it is. Just
Charge double. Fuck that, charge double. That's like my new slogan. I'm gonna write a book. Fuck that, charge double. Oh my god, I should.
Also, speaking of imposter syndrome, there's something that I thought about, which was that you're not qualified to judge yourself. When you're applying for a job, it's not your job to consider whether you are qualified for the position or not. That's the person on the other side of the table. So
Yeah.
just have the audacity and the arrogance to apply to things that you wouldn't even expect to get a response from, and let the people on the other side of the table do the work of judging you.
It's like swiping right on Tinder when you know it's probably not going to happen. You just do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? You're like, fuck it. What's the worst thing that could happen? You know what I mean? You never know. Might come back. I love that. I think that's a great point. So right on. Well, Eugene, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us. This was a lot of fun for sure. And
Yes.
we'll look for. I'm sure. Well, are you guys gonna come to any of the podcast conventions like Podcast Movement or She Podcast? Are you gonna be at any of those things?
Well, now that you've planted the idea in my mind, I might ask Pete if we can get a plane and do that.
Sure.
I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Definitely do She Podcast. You got plenty of lead time on that because it's October. So
Gotcha.
Podcast Movement's coming up quick. So you're a little late.
Yeah,
on that
Podcast
one,
Movement might be a little bit tough, but this is
but send me some stickers. I'll pass them out for you.
there you go. Be like,
Sure, we'll do.
put them all over the other transcriptionists. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right.
Don't do that. Don't that. Well, yeah, no, and She Podcast is great because a lot of the women podcast editors, I mean, it's a podcast convention centered for women in podcasting, women with an X to make sure nobody's excluded there. And it's a really awesome convention. Like, it's just a bunch of really nice people who are super happy to be there and great content. I can't say enough good things about it. It's October 12th through 16th, I think, in Scottsdale.
On our birthday.
On my birthday.
And mine too. We have the same birthday.
Oh my God. October 15th. Bam, bam.
Yep.
But it's in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is beautiful that time of year, and it should be super cool. And I know they're looking for sponsors and other things, so I can introduce you if you want to the founder of that. But, I think that especially in this space, the vendors that show up and answer questions and speak to women without being snarky and mansplaining about it will get a lot of loyalty in this industry, and I'll tell you a quick story about She Podcast. The last time that it happened, it was in Atlanta in, I don't know, yonder. Pre-pandemic, I'm like 2016. No,
Yeah.
I think it was 19. I don't know. It was the last time anything
2019.
really happened, right? And I was there and I'm super excited. And my friend Brandon, young black guy who's living in Atlanta, came to visit me. He used to work for me in DC and I hadn't seen him in like a year. So he came to the hotel to hang out while I was setting up. So it was the night before. I'm in my vending booth setting up my, my whole shit. And he comes to see me and he's walking into the hotel and he's trying to find it. And he comes downstairs where the area is. And these like three guys come up to him because he's like looking around and they're like, "Hey, are you here for She Podcast?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, well, we have a man cave. If it gets to be too much, you can come hang out with us." And Brandon's like, "Yo, man, like, okay, cool, thanks." So he comes and finds me. He's like, "What is going on?" He's like, "On what planet do like three white dudes like come up to a black guy and be like, 'Hey man, come with us'?" You know what I mean? Like, it was just so weird, but it left the worst taste in my mouth, because if you're so afraid of women, why the fuck are you at the convention? Why do you need a
Right.
man cave? If it's so, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to over compliment you on your fucking shoes. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to tell you about the pockets in our dress. Like, why would you come to an event centered around women and then immediately plan a place to get away from us? Like, do us a solid. Don't come, dude. You know what I mean? So having said that, if, the vendors that show up and are like grateful to be there and interact with their potential giant client base are going to win, because the guys that were there last time missed the fucking boat. And I will never do business with any of them on principle, because go away, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Don't come. So, little tidbit for you: the people that treat the women in this industry like actual people are going to do a lot better, and their businesses are going to survive a lot longer, because at the end of the day, women are driving this industry so much more than so many people actually realize. So that's
As it should be.
So that is my there's an earthquake happening right
Yes.
now. Do you see my camera shaking? There's
Seriously?
an earthquake right now.
What? I could see it shaking.
There's an earthquake. I'm like, what?
Anything falling off the walls? Tsunami. Molly, oh my God.
I was like, I was like, I didn't kick the
Wow.
table again. It's still moving. That was crazy. Dude, there's earthquakes all the time here. But anyway, I digress.
Really?
That's enough like man hating and she podcast for now. But I just think there's information in there that's valuable. If you show up and you're not afraid to interact with people and you like provide real value, they will use you forever. And the thing about women is like, I'm not going to generalize because stereotypes are kind of ridiculous, but like we love sharing good news. And so if they're happy with you, they're going to tell everybody how happy they are with you. And they're going to want other people to use your services too. Like we are great shepherds and champions of other people's businesses, especially when we feel valued, appreciated, and heard. And I don't think that those are hard things to do. So should you decide to come, I'm sure you will be well received. So
Thanks.
that is all. And if you come to She Podcast and you create a man cave, not you, Eugene, but those guys who would never listen to this podcast anyway. So yeah, on that note, yeah, that's my rant. That's my rant for today.
I love Molly
I'm
rants.
still pissed off about that. I just don't why would you spend all the money to go all the way to Atlanta if you're afraid to hang out with women? And Brandon was like,
And then
these guys
hide
are
out
crazy.
in there.
I'm going to go
Yeah.
hang out with all the ladies. Like, what are you talking? Why would I come to a room full of women and hide? You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, so thank you again, Eugene, for coming on our podcast and listening to my rants. And I hope we do see you at She Podcast. That would be great. I'm presenting actually. Oh, I can announce that now. I was selected to
Yes.
speak at She Podcast this year.
Yes.
And the title of my presentation is Imposter Syndrome Isn't Real. So I'm going to talk for like 5 minutes about that. And then I'm going to give people 5 ways to make more money to defeat and kill imposter syndrome without having to talk about their feelings. So I'm super, super excited about that. So it would be awesome. Marcus, are you coming out for that?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. It's
It's a lot.
a little too. Yeah.
It's a lot. Well,
So,
especially
I wish I
know.
could.
And then Marcus is in Nashville, so if you do end up at Podcast Movement, you got a homie on the ground. Marcus,
Yeah.
straight out of Nashville.
That's right.
Music.
Come crash on my
That's
couch.
right. So, so on that note, well, thank you, Eugene. Always a pleasure. And do you want to
Thank you.
rattle off where the links or how people can get in touch with you or any parting thoughts that you might want to leave us with?
Sure. Podscribe.ai is our website, and you can email me at eugene@podscribe.com. And I'll answer all of the emails and any questions you have, and we can set up a Zoom chat as well if you'd like a in-person demo from yours truly.
Boom.
So
Nice.
please reach out.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man.
Thanks, Eugene. It was
Of
awesome.
course.
Take care.
For sure. Awesome. Thanks.